to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. This is a podcast dedicated to educating and empowering women from preconception, pregnancy, birth, and through early motherhood on wellness lifestyle. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and I'm a maternity pediatric chiropractor, as well as mother who has hand-selected experts in natural holistic healthcare specialties to shine light on options and choices during this exciting phase of a woman's life. And today I had the honor and privilege to interview Erica Ignjatovic, and we talked about the topic of why it's time to reinvent baby registries. So this is a letter from Erica, founder of Little Honey Money. When I was pregnant with our first baby, I used an online baby registry service. Like many new parents, I spent countless hours researching products to ensure I was prepared with everything our baby might need. Not knowing any better, I thought the happiness and well-being of our baby would lie solely on selections of the best of products list I endlessly researched. However, we soon realized we ended up with so much of all the wrong things. When our second baby was on the way, I didn't register for anything. By then, I knew that we would make better choices on what to buy if we waited to meet him first, and that our baby's well-being wasn't dependent on any tangible thing we could buy. Rather, it would be the essential care we would give to him and to ourselves that would make the biggest difference. We also knew that spending a little less money on baby products would allow us to have more money for the support and care that were crucial for our family. However, there just wasn't a resource available for us to comfortably ask our loved ones to make contributions in lieu of gifts, and one that could manage and allocate both how and when we needed to. The mission of Little Honey Money is to provide that resource to new parents. We help new families get exactly what they need when they need it, because we know every journey is different and it's hard to know what you need until you get there. To find out more information, you can check out the website at littlehoneymoney.com. Hi, Erica. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm really excited to share your product with my listeners that are women that are getting ready to get pregnant, are pregnant, preparing for motherhood and all the things that come with it. And we talk typically in this podcast a lot about holistic health and wellness. And I find that your product fits perfectly in that realm, even though you're not a health practitioner. Because your product supports women having access to these types of services, specifically while they're pregnant and new moms. And that is just invaluable. So let's talk a little bit about who you are and how you came up with the idea for Little Honey Money.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me and for your kind words. I am a mother of two, and Little Honey Money was inspired by my experiences with early motherhood. And it's the registry that I was looking for at one point and just simply couldn't find. So I decided to create it. And I'll explain what the journey kind of looked like for me. But I like to always say that my firstborn taught me what necessities really are when it comes to having a baby and to experience early motherhood. And my second baby inspired me to actually create the baby registry that addresses those necessities, because there just wasn't anything out there at the time. And the way this looked for me was during my first pregnancy, I wanted to do everything right, from the things that I was eating to, the products that I was putting in my body and in my home, to the products that I was buying for the baby, and really setting up the nursery with everything we needed. And something that I heard a lot during my pregnancy, and actually the most common conversation would be do you have this? Or can you tell me where you're registered? I'd like to help. I'd like to buy you some things. Or, this is the best bassinet, or this is, I just heard a lot of from my friends, family, or people that really I was surrounded with. The messaging always came back to the stuff for the baby. And so I spent a lot of time during that first pregnancy really researching products and trying to find all the best things. And I genuinely thought that being ready for motherhood kind of meant having all the things ready to go for when baby arrived. And of course, when I got to motherhood, and the baby was there, I realized, I had a bunch of the wrong stuff. I needed to get new stuff. some of the things I never used and some of the things I was really happy I had, but I couldn't have possibly known before I got there. And so it just felt like a very kind of wasteful experience. And I was actually spending more like time and effort and really like most of our resources were kind of going to finding more support during that time because the postpartum weeks and months were just so brand new. And for our family, like what we needed was support. And so when my second baby was coming, and people would ask where I'm registered, or, you know, people started sending gifts, I was like, oh no, not this again. Like, we don't really need any of this stuff, because we knew we had some things and that we couldn't possibly know the kinds of things we'd actually need. So we knew if we needed diapers once the baby came, we could get that in 2 days or, you know, within a day. And we also knew that we wanted more care and support, and we were budgeting for meal deliveries and doulas and chiropractic care and things that really made a difference to me and my family. And so, you know, it's when I started really thinking about it. And then after my baby came, you know, I had tried to find a registry that could like actually make it more comfortable, but I just didn't find one where my friends and family could give me what I really needed. So by then I knew 3 things. I knew, 1, there's no way to know what we needed before baby came. 2, the care and the support was the most important for us, for me, and specifically my own care was most important for my family. And 3, like each journey is different between my first, my second, and anybody else that, you know, kind of influenced my journey. Like everyone's journey is completely different. And so when I set out to create Little Honey Money, I wanted to address those 3 things before anything else. And I believe it was about 6 months later after I had my second baby is when I actually set out to kind of formulate what it could look and feel like. And I brought on my co-founder who had a ton of tech experience and could really help us make it usable and really something that can help new moms in a lot of ways. And yeah, like, you know, like you said, we're not a health practitioner, but we use our platform to highlight health practitioners like you, because that's where the education really comes from. And that's where I learned anything. And a lot of moms really get their education from, you know, maternal health support people like yourself and like others like you.
Yeah, it's so true, Erica. And it's essentially, you know, these types of resources can cost money, right? Like going to a chiropractor while you're pregnant or after giving birth, your baby getting chiropractic services, you know, having a postpartum doula. That was so invaluable for me to have that service after my baby was born. I didn't have family who could come and help support. And my husband went back to work very quickly after I gave birth. So I needed someone coming over to help me as a new mom. And these services are valuable and deserve to be, you know, these practitioners deserve to get paid for their value, right? But it does cost money. And becoming a parent is there's expenses that come along with having a baby, right? So this is such a great awareness, I think, about really when you're entering motherhood, what is the most valuable thing that's going to help empower you as a mom and support you and your family. And it's not necessarily a designer diaper bag, right? Or a designer nursery. It goes kind of, these are the superficial things that people think they need, but they don't really need them, right? And if you have limited financial means, where can you best allocate those monies, right?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot because it really comes down to prioritizing. And what do you prioritize the most? And what do you want the most? So if you want to feel good and feel like you have the answers and you feel like you want to like show up for your baby in a certain way, how do you get to that? And like you said, with like a designer diaper bag or designer, you know, like most of us don't have the option to do all of it. We can't have the designer everything and have proper support the way that we should. And so it comes down to prioritizing. And that's really what I learned between my first and my second baby, is that the first time I really wanted all the best things. quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see, but
A lot of marketing.
yeah. And it just kind of, you get funneled in that direction naturally as a first time parent. And that was my journey. I did that. I thought those things mattered. And I thought, and, for some people, they matter more than, for example, if you have a relative or, a mother or a in-law that can come stay with you and take care of the baby, you might not need a baby nurse to come and stay with you. But I didn't have that. My family is scattered across 3 countries, and everyone, when I was having babies, still had jobs and, places to be, and they couldn't just drop everything to come and support me. So I actually had to do that so that we could feel supported as a family, and so that I could show up and be rested and be mindful of the things that I wanted to be mindful of for my babies. And I think that the money conversation is something that is really interesting, because families in our country spend tens of thousands of dollars on stuff. And we have no problem adding things to our baby registry for our baby when it comes to, like, I want this, I want that, I want, I might need this or I might need that. And, that's really easy. But the second we say, okay, a chiropractor is going to be, $150, and maybe it's not covered by insurance, it becomes like, oh, I don't know, that's too much. But there was $150 that could have gone to something else, and you would be easily say it's okay. And so that's one thing that we try to help educate and really reframe what are necessities, okay? And that's something, it's always going to be an uphill battle for us and a challenge. But I think a lot more first-time moms are coming to this idea earlier, versus when I was having my first baby, it was just completely foreign. So
yes. And, it's something like when I gave birth 5.5 years ago, I would have loved to have access to this registry. And I did, even though I was at that time even more of an educated first time mom, probably because of my profession and caring for pregnant new moms for so many years, I still registered for things I didn't need. You know what I mean? And you kind of get swept away with like, oh, and it's exciting, right? And the baby things are so cute. But at the end of the day, we got them. And then I was like, oh, I don't really need this. Or they sat in the closet for months. And then it's like, oh, I never really used that, touched that. There is a lot we don't even know what we need until the baby arrives. But I do remember advice while I was pregnant, like, your newborn doesn't really need clothes, right? Like, they need onesies and swaddles, and that's about it. They don't need lots of little outfits, like a couple are fine because they're fun, but you're really recognizing like what is the priority here. You don't need a ton of gadgets, right? Less is more. And that also, I think, when you have a bunch of these gadgets, they distract from the relationship of mom and baby, right? The connection, that mindfulness. It's like, oh, I can just put my baby over there and, I can dock them. I can dock them on this little thing instead of holding them or wearing them or, really like connecting with them. It's such a finite and special period, those first few months, that 4th trimester, right? So the more we can really value that, and that is the relationship, right? And I really love what you just said about mama self-care. That is a topic that comes up in every single episode of this podcast. The more that you're supported, so you're fed nourishing foods and you're getting the sleep that you need, even right after giving birth, because you have support for baby care so you can rest, and your house is being cleaned by somebody else, and your dishes and your laundry, then you will have the energy to have the most intimate connection with your baby because you're not depleted and exhausted.
I totally agree. I always say it kind of having that support clears the path for you to just connect and bond with your baby, because you can give them your full self instead of, like you said, like laundry's piling up and the dishes are piling up. And, if you're breastfeeding and pumping, and if you're using formula, you've got a million bottle dishes a day. And how do you keep up with all of that and then not get triggered by, your baby crying, or, get triggered by just looking around and seeing everything a mess, and you just kind of feel like you're failing at it all. And we've all been there where we're kind of lacking a certain component of it, and it can be really overwhelming. Whereas if if you're getting enough sleep, if you're getting enough nourishment through food, if someone's kind of helping tidy and do the things that you really like, kind of your mental health is dependent on all of this. So I I'm so passionate about that because I think we all go through this awareness in different ways and at different times. But I think what I love most is talking to moms who have kind of been there and then seen the other side of it. And then we always tell each other, like, oh, this is what you really need. Or, it's the best money you'll never regret spending is like the overnight support on the postpartum side. Or we do things like that. But then we celebrate new moms by showering them with gifts that they may or may not use. And it's just an interesting kind of dynamic when you look at it from the perspective of we know what moms really need. And we should also still celebrate them and make them feel important. And it's the one of the two times or, a couple times in a person's life where you actually have the ability to say, hey, this is how I need help. Or, like, when else do you really get to register? There's a couple opportunities in life to do that. And I think just being able to look at this kind of stuff in addition to what baby needs, not instead of necessarily, but really in addition to kind of look at the full picture, it can help new moms have better experiences with new motherhood and feel happier and feel more joy and more connection to their baby.
Absolutely. I think the other thing that's just coming up in my mind as we're talking here is, let's talk about the finances, right? And, interestingly, children can create some stress because there's additional financial output that's required to go through pregnancy, give birth, and raise a child. And it can be stressful on a partnership, on a relationship, right? So this is an excellent way that even during pregnancy, as you're preparing for these expenses and kind of budgeting and really, like you said, getting clear about where you want to allocate your money, you can have this conversation with your partner about, like, this is why this is valuable to me. And, I know, like with my husband, I'm like, honey, your Porsche's going to have to wait. I know you really want one, but that's not a priority right now. And for us too, like, I'm self-employed. So recognizing I didn't have, paid maternity leave, right? So our family had less income coming in towards the end of the pregnancy and then after I gave birth. And even when I went back to work, it was much less, more of a part-time schedule than previously. So those were real things, right? And then also, recognizing that, like you said, if you don't have family that can come in and provide free support, then you have to pay for these types of services. If you choose to give birth at home, you're probably paying actually more out of pocket than if you have a hospital birth, which is outrageous. But these are some of the truth with finances. And when you're kind of clear, like, this is what I want to create for my birth and early motherhood, and this is what it costs, then you're really empowered going into it and knowing, like, well, we have the money set aside, and it doesn't have to be stressful, right?
Yeah, it's a lot less stressful when surprises happen, like unwelcome surprises or, just surprises in general that cost money when you're like, I actually need this, but we don't have the money set aside. And every situation is different. But I think what we've really tried to do is put the control in the mother's hands or whoever the registrant is, because she knows what she really needs when she needs it. Like, she'll know right now we need this. And so that's why we really put the control, being the money, in that mother's hands, because we trust her. She knows what she needs, and she won't know until she gets there a lot of times. And that's completely normal. And I think that element of thinking that you have to know in advance in order to make the right decisions, it shouldn't be that kind of pressure, right? It should be like, this journey, we don't know how it's going to look, right? But if we can kind of set up some tent poles to know, like, what might happen or what's common or, what we will value, then you can kind of navigate and be like, oh, you know what? Like, I thought I was going to need a lactation specialist, but now I actually need chiropractic care, but at least we thought about this in advance. Or I know both of my babies had minor newborn issues. We didn't know that they were going to be born and have to have a certain kind of specialty care. And it was not cheap. And then there's childcare. There's a childcare crisis, and that's very real. And it's really hard to say that it needs to be more affordable, because it does, but also the people who are qualified to take care of our children should also be properly compensated and to be paid well. And so we're in a situation where, yes, we need help and we need solutions to the childcare crisis, but what we can control immediately today is kind of where we prioritize and where we spend and where we kind of give the most attention to. And I'd love to see more attention put towards the fourth trimester and really kind of planning, preparing, but not planning, I guess you could say, for that time, and especially financially. So that's what our platform really tries to help you do, is to understand that, these things may possibly come up, and at least you'll have set aside some funds, and maybe didn't get all of the gadgets and things that you thought you needed or wanted, but maybe it's going to be okay. Yeah. And so what our platform really aims to do is kind of help you understand what you may be looking at, so that you can prepare, but not necessarily plan, because it's impossible to plan, but really be in a position where you have a little bit of power being money, to make some decisions for your family that are healthy and are empowered and are informed, so that you really can take care of your family and yourself the way that you would really hope to.
Yes. And so to walk me through how how this works, Little Honey Money. So if a woman is pregnant and she wants to create this registry, what does she do?
Yeah, so she can go on, and first of all, we have a couple educational resources. We have our journal where we interview maternal health support people and finance experts and people to kind of help frame, what the journey could look like for them, and with common questions. A lot of times, as you're entering motherhood, these things, the idea of maternal care, maternal support, so many concepts are brand new to a new mom. You've never heard of, half of the healing hands that are out there. So we really try to help educate on that first. We have our journal, we have a podcast. And then if you create a registry with us, you have full control over what it is that you need. So if you want to, say, create a doula fund or a meal deliveries fund, you can pick those. You can set the price, or like however much that you think you want to spend on it. You can add a description so your friends and family know why it's important to you. And we have a whole list of suggested items that new parents often need, but you can also create a custom item. So say, I've seen people they have moving expenses because now they're moving into a new house, and they don't know yet what that's going to look like. So they'll just create kind of like a moving expense fund, or things like that relate to their new chapter, and really taking the opportunity to be able to customize it and make it personal to your needs, your family's needs. A lot of times we are seeing people start early. Really, the journey starts before conception. And IVF is also a very expensive service, as is surrogacy and really other ways of getting to parenthood. And so we're really heartened by the use of our platform to be able to fund the entire journey in the ways that you need it most. So whatever it is, you can add that, you can customize it, and then you have a custom link that's your registry. So you can send that out to friends and family. You can put it on your baby shower invites. And it's really important for a new mom or an expecting mother to choose her own providers. So that's something that we were very mindful of as we built this, because I knew by my second baby who my care team was going to be, and who, I would prefer. And so I didn't want this platform to be something limiting rather, where I could use this platform only if I used providers that were associated with the platform. So that's something that's been really important to, find your correct care team for you personally. And we do hope to, have different kinds of integrations where we can make it more seamless with providers on our platform. But at the moment, you choose your own. And we like to say we're here so you can get what you need when you need it.
So when women are receiving these donations for their funds in this registry, how do they access the money to make these purchases or to pay for healthcare expenses?
Yes, so they link their bank account. It goes straight to their bank account, and then they pay their providers of choice.
And or can shop online as well?
Correct. They can use the funds how and when they need them.
Wow. And so I know from what I'm hearing, there might be a few different categories in that woman's registry, but once she's like actually needing the money, she can borrow from other funds if needed.
Yeah. So really she has full control over how it looks. We kind of use the suggested items to help her frame her mind and really kind of help her friends and family who are donating to her what she kind of plans to do with it. But if we're really supporting a new mother, we know that things might change and things might not look the way that she expected, but at least the friends and family have the benefit of knowing that they actually helped that person's journey exactly how they needed. And that's one big thing where, for example, like you said, you created a doula fund or you created, prenatal yoga sessions, right? You did all of that, but maybe you didn't use all of it. And then something came up. That's the way motherhood goes. Things always come up that you didn't expect. And so really it goes back to prioritizing again. You just have to keep reprioritizing what you need to feel whole, to feel nourished, to feel like everyone in your family as well, because that's when everyone is really thriving. Everybody really, I know I'm unwell when my children are very sick. So same with, it goes both ways. Like we need everyone in the family to be properly cared for and taken care of and nourished in every way. And it starts with the mother. So again, she doesn't always know how it's going to look, but we want her to be able to have the control, being the money, to do what she would really like to do to take care of her family.
Okay. Yeah. So it's really just a way for people to just give money, like you said, in a way that's not awkward, right? It's just like, this is really what I need. I don't need another baby outfit. I need money for these types of services.
Yeah, I've also seen a lot of people, and I think this is really smart, is they create like a gear fund. They're just not buying it ahead of time. Like they're acknowledging that they will need things, but it's actually really smart to say, I'll buy the things as I go along, because then you're really targeting the actual need, not the perceived need, right? You're targeting what you actually need in those moments instead of saying, I need 10 onesies for this size and I need 10 for this size. Like you don't know that. You don't know how fast your baby's going to grow. I have two friends that just got home from the hospital, and one had a bunch of preemie size outfits, or 0 to 3, and the other one didn't. And the one who had them didn't need them because the baby was bigger than that by the time they got home, and the other one needed all of them. So luckily they made a switcheroo. Amazing. But it's things like that come up all the time. So I love the idea of just kind of creating a cush fund for the things that you'll need. You just don't know when or how much of it and whatever that's going to actually look like.
Right. And that gear is like, you might not need it till the baby's a year old, right? So you don't really need it for your baby shower.
Right.
Because it's just like sitting, especially if you live in an apartment and space is a premium, you have all this stuff, or as a baby gets larger and bigger and you have nowhere to put it.
Right. And you might have more pressing needs before they need, feeding supplies, spoons, and, things that come later. It's just a different kind of way of looking at it, because we typically haven't looked at it this way. When someone's going into motherhood, you want to help them. Well-meaning friends and family want to give them things that they will utilize. It's just tough to know what that is going to be.
Right. So as people are making that donation, like the next day, the funds are in the mom's account that she links to it, or what's the turnaround look like?
Yeah, so it depends on the bank, but typically it's 1 to 3 days.
Okay. And that could be ongoing, or it could be like the day of her baby shower. Could it also then be after she gives birth? Like, how long is the registry open for?
Absolutely. It's as long as she needs. I mean, we have visions of this really evolving with the new mom in the family, because really the traditional baby registry kind of takes you to when you have your baby, and then that's it. The opportunity's over, right? But the the way we like to look at it is that kind of is when it begins, and you really start to look at what you really need. And those first few months and that first year, there are so many little phases in that first year, and it would be a dream if everybody can kind of have the mindset of supporting a new family the entire year. But it's a little bit challenging because there aren't so many milestones that people are going to recognize and be able to do that for. But it's open, it's available. If someone does have friends and family that are, seeing your struggle along the way and asking how they can help, I would love for people to say, I still have my little Honey Money registry open, and all the way to the first baby's birthday. Like, that's a big milestone for parents. Like, the first year, it feels like you've lived 5 years because there's so many little phases, and it's a really celebratory time, but it's also a time where you also need support the entire time. And not to mention just, your recovery as a new mom, no matter how you got there, whether you birthed your baby yourself or not, it's a very challenging time, and you're going to need a lot of support along the way if you're going to do it right. And I think it would be lovely if everybody, in society could really look at it that way, and not just like, oh, well, let's make sure to like support her right before she has the baby, and then that's it.
Wow, it's just such a brilliant idea. And any type of product that you see that's geared for moms and babies comes out of a mom's personal experience of like, wow, I wish I had this. I have a girlfriend who just created a slip that goes over the car seat. So when you're traveling in the car, the baby can have rest and sleep. And this could work for children as well that are no longer babies anymore, but still need to like chill, have their own little tent. Called Flip Fort. And she created it because she would take road trips with her kids, and it was a nightmare because they weren't like tiny little babies anymore, but they still needed to maybe take a nap or just disconnect from their sibling and not be arguing the entire car ride. And so that's where the best ideas come from, our life experiences. And then you're like, wow, that's what I needed. And so I bet other moms will want that as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And even just now being in this space, everyone has created something that they were either lacking or something they did right, and they were so inspired. They're like, why not? Why are more people not doing this? And I think I'm kind of a combination of the two, because I went through the process the first time, had eye-opening experience, and then I did a lot of things right, and I had doulas, and I took care of my fitness, and I took care of the things that made me feel like me, and I had a great postpartum time both times I had babies. And it all comes down to the way I was supported and the way that I was able to kind of pull together the resources that I needed to be able to feel the way that I wanted to feel. And I am very unapologetically, I encourage moms to get what they need, even when it feels selfish, because it's not. It's not.
It's not selfish. Mm-hmm. We all need to take care of ourselves. And that might even mean, girls' night out, right? Like, that's okay. So somebody will take care of that child. Ideally, your partner. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, partners don't, babysit, right? Like they're parents as well. So, it's recognizing that we all need a break. We all need to have our self-care, time to take a shower, do some yoga, meditate. And you can't really do all of that and, take care of your child at the same time. Like we all need these types of breaks. So this is a real thing. And I think the more that we really embrace, I think that generationally women were taught to sacrifice their physical and mental and emotional health on behalf of becoming a mom. Like that was like, okay, you're going to become a mom. Well, give up on your freedom, give up on your happiness because you're going to be a slave to your family, and that's really not optimal, right? The more mom is rested and happy, and she has so much to give, she has so much love and joy to give to her family, and everyone will benefit.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly all the things we stand for. Like, for us, long gone are the days where you have to give up everything for motherhood, because your baby will not benefit from that. Your energy is different when you are depleted, when you are unfulfilled, and when you are unhappy. And so, what do you want to give your children? Do you want to give them all of that energy, or do you want to give them you're rested, bright, and happy, and fulfilled, and inspired? Like, what kind of mom do you want to present yourself as? And really, it doesn't, it's not always accessible for everybody to do all the things, but everything you can do and really kind of feel your best, your baby will benefit from it.
It's so true. Well, Erica, do you have any last thoughts you want to share with the listeners?
Well, I mean, I am thankful to, providers like you, and because I think a lot of this education is really going to help a lot of women's journey. So it really, for me, always comes back to, the maternal health providers, because they changed my journey. And I think, they change women's lives all the time. And so, yeah, the last thing I want to say is just, thanks to all the maternal health providers out there that make everyone's lives better.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Well, as I shared during the interview, this registry has been a long time coming. I certainly wished I had access to this 5 years ago during my own pregnancy, and can see the benefit for so many women, even the women coming into my practice who have to minimize the care they receive for chiropractic, acupuncture, massage during their pregnancy because of finances. So when we can allocate resources in a wiser manner and spend things on self-care and mama during her pregnancy as well as after giving birth, we realize we just need less crap, right? And then also some of the things for baby we don't need for a year or 2 years from now, and we can buy them then. We don't need them during the pregnancy. So I think this is just such an amazing product. I'm so excited about it, and I'm really happy that I got to share Little Honey Money with all my listeners.